So the scheme's launched. It's the first official recognition, isn't it, really, this sort of tangible piece of justice in many ways, I think, for capture victims. 3 decades they've been waiting. So it's been a long time coming. It's been a very long time coming, and it's a good day in the sense that we finally get some recognition and redress to people who've been waiting for so long, but it's also a day where we have to recognise how long people have suffered for. It's also a day to say thank you, actually. Thank you to the SUB-POSTMasters and the campaigners who have been pushing on this sort of forgotten part of the scandal for so long, including campaigning journalists like yourself. Why should victims trust this process that's been put into place after seeing the Horizon schemes dogged by delays and red tape? Well, postmasters are right to have low levels of trust in the state because they've been treated appallingly by the state. But what we've done with this scheme is to try to learn some of those lessons for where previous compensation schemes for postmasters didn't work. So we're collecting more evidence from the beginning to try to speed things up. We're trying to give sub-postmasters the benefit of the doubt throughout this, and I hope they will see that this scheme treats them with a bit more dignity and a bit more urgency. What timelines are you looking at for this particular scheme and for claims, sort of on average? Are we talking months or years? So we are launching the scheme today. The aim is to start with 150 cases because with previous schemes they were designed in a way that didn't actually match the reality of the experiences and the losses of people who were coming forward. So we're starting with those 150 cases. We'll work very quickly to review that and learn lessons from it and then move on with everyone else. But given the length of time, decades as you say, that this has been going on for, we know that we have to move very quickly with this because people are often of very advanced years. So is it months or years, do you know, yet? I certainly hope it's not years, but we are working as fast as we possibly can with this because people have waited so long. Can you personally guarantee speedy redress then for the capture victims? Absolutely, that's what we are doing today, is to make sure that we have a scheme that gives people redress as quickly as possible. But it is challenging because we're dealing with cases where there's not a lot of evidence, so much time has passed. So we try to design the scheme to give postmasters the benefit of the doubt and to try to be as fair as possible to them. Is there any way of discretion around certain cases? There's one in particular I can think of, Ken Tooby, who's not very well, and there'll be others similar, I imagine. And there is a real concern that all of this will come too late. It's the beginning of a process, that's appreciated, but is there discretion to help those who are may have less time? I think the issue here is that because we're dealing with cases that go back to the 1990s, so many of these postmasters are older and in poor health. So to be fair, it has to be on a sort of first come, first served basis. But that's why today we're really urging people, particularly in that situation, to work with their lawyers as quickly as possible and to get those applications in so that we can move as quickly as possible. It was a civil case, so it wasn't a conviction. He's had an apology from the post office, so there was real. Would he fall under one of those exceptional cases potentially? The exceptional case bracket. So the exceptional case bracket within this is so the amount of compensation ranges from £10,000 to £300,000, and we've said that where people make a compelling case that their losses are above that, the independent people who make the decisions on this may go further than that £300,000 figure. On that, how did you arrive at that £300,000 figure? So the equivalent compensation scheme to this is the Horizon shortfall scheme. The banding of between £10,000 and £300,000 is based on the experience of that and the average losses that people experience through that. So we're trying to base it on the past experience. But what about the fact that these are capture victims, so they're older? This goes back further than the Horizon system and the scandal. So is £300,000 really enough for people who lost their homes, their reputations and decades of income? Well, within this scheme, as well as people talking about their losses and their financial losses, there's also the opportunity to make that wider case of the impact on their lives. And as I say, if the independent panel feels that there is a compelling case, they can go beyond that £300,000. And I think there's been some anger, as you know, you've spoken to some of the victims over the use of the word exception and this banding of 300,000. Sure. I think perhaps there's a feeling that maybe they're not just the exception, maybe there'll be more common than you think.
I understand that, and that is a consequence of the banding system. But as I say, the banding system is there because we're dealing with very old cases where evidence has passed into time. And so this is about making sure that there is a quick and fair way of getting money to these individuals. But we'll also be reviewing that initial first phase of cases to make sure that the scheme fits the experience and the losses of individuals.
Can you guarantee that there is parity with the Horizon schemes? Because of course there's also concern over the fact that there's only one chance to appeal, and a lot of the victims want to see more than that.
Yeah. So one of the lessons from other schemes is that sense that it goes on and never ends. And people are asked questions again and again and re-traumatised again and again. So within this scheme, we're trying to collect more detailed information early on. So the application form is different and tries to draw that information out of people so that there's less of a gap between the application and the final award. People will have the ability to appeal at the beginning if they are refused eligibility, and they'll have the ability to appeal at the end if they feel that there was a mistake made or some problem with the process.
On overturned convictions, because obviously you have this kind of rather strange scenario where you have those who have been potentially the worst wronged in this part of the scandal who are not eligible for the redress schemes.
Yes.
Will they need a brand new scheme, or will it fit into this scheme in the future?
So we've said there are cases from Capture that are going through the CCRC, the process to review convictions, whether they were safe or not. One of those is going to the Court of Appeal. We've said that if there are overturned convictions, we will provide full redress for that, in the way we have for other convictions.
So would it be a separate scheme or the same?
We'll make a decision on that when we see what happens with the Court of Appeal and the cases that are going through the CCRC.
And how much money has been ring-fenced, if any at all, for this part of the scandal? So
overall, the Treasury have allocated funds for this, but they're very clear that that is an uncapped figure. There is no ceiling on compensation.